Land. I'm not really sure what happened in this recording, but towards the beginning, my audio is very echoey. So please forgive it, but please enjoy it and give this episode a listen. I have a question. What is your favorite song and how do you connect with it? Is it when you fell in love or through something really difficult? I'm your host, Tiffany Mason. Now join me as I interview others and we take a walk down memory lane with them. Let's get lost in why that music matters to them. Turn up your radio and let's explore Memories with a Beat. Hello, Podcast Land. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Memories with a Beat. And I'm really excited. I've been shifting some of my focus to LinkedIn, and I've been a part of this really amazing networking group. And David happens to be in the group with me. I just was so excited. You guys know how much I love when I find somebody who has a passion for music. It's always a natural fit for the podcast. So David actually was sharing with our group that he had a new venture, that he was part of this band, and they had a concert coming up. And so it felt like a no-brainer for me to reach out and say, hey, David, would you be on the podcast? He accepted. And so here we are today. David, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Tiffany. It's great to be here. I love being here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to get to know my LinkedIn peeps a little bit better. So this is definitely one of the ways that will happen. David, would you share with my audience where you are, what you do, whatever they would find interesting?
Sure. I'll give you the lowdown. I'm from Rhode Island. Hopefully you can hear my accent in there.
No, not at all.
Not at all. I own a marketing design agency in Rhode Island with a partner and doing really well. But over the years, I've always been a musician as well. But over the years, I've just really felt this desire to create and to go back to songwriting. And so, we can get into the details of it, but I started a band, and fast forward, we're a 6-piece Americana band with fiddle, mandolin, guitar, bazookies, pedal steel, the whole thing. And we're writing and recording, and we're almost ready to release our album. Probably by the time this comes out, it's already released. So the name of the band is In Lieu of Flowers, and you can find us everywhere. That. Yeah, you can find us anywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, under In Lieu of Flowers Band. Have to put the band on there, then you'll be able to find us. So yeah, I'm just a creative person, and I just love creating. I can't sit back and be a copycat. I just love creating things.
Were you like that in school too?
Yeah, always. I was always a right brain person. Always.
Uh-huh.
There's this little thing that I learned that if you want to find out who's a right brain person or a left brain, you just cross your arms like this, like you're folding your arms. I know this is only audio, but if someone has their left arm dominating over the right, that means the right side of the brain is controlling it. They tend to be creative. And that is so true. I've gone to networking events and I've seen people standing, and I look at them and I go, his right arm is crossing over his left arm. That means that he's left brain. I bet you anything he's a CPA or a financial guy, good with numbers. Sure enough, I go over, yep, he's a lawyer or a CPA. It's so true. So I've always been a right brain guy, always writing lyrics, writing music. So that's my little bio.
I did that, and at first I feel like maybe I mirrored you, and so I put it on top, my right arm on top, but it felt uncomfortable. Yeah. So I switched to my left arm on top, and that feels very comfortable. So
your left arm means it's controlled by the right, so you're creative. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm creative. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're bad with numbers.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm a little creative, but...
Your checkbook's probably not balanced, but you're super creative.
Definitely not.
That's what matters.
Yes, definitely not. Well, okay, so you said that in high school you were always like that. Were you part of the band? Did you play something? And do you play something in your band now, a musical instrument?
Yeah, I was a late starter. My mother was in a little country band, and when I was about 14, most people stop playing guitar when they're 10, 9, 8. I started when I was 14, late starter, got into the Beach Boys and all that, but I really started with country music. And because she was into country, George Jones, Tammy Wynette, Tom T. Hall, all that stuff, Waylon Jennings, you name it, everybody. Hank Williams Sr., not Jr., he's We're not a fan of Junior. But anyway,
Okay.
so I just loved music. I'm like, this is a great way to express. And music is another form of communication. It's funny when people say, oh, how many languages do you speak? Most people say one, I just know English, or English and Spanish, but they forget about music. Music, if they can play an instrument, it is a type of communication. And you know that when you're in a band, because you're looking at people and you're playing something and you know where they're about to go, and you play something that sends their way and they play something to match what you just played, and then you go back and forth. I've always loved the idea of being in a band and playing with people, communicating musically as another language. Mm-hmm. So,
I asked one of the ladies who I interviewed, Carly Lyon. She used an original song on the podcast, actually, but I asked her what she loves so much about performing, and that's what she said. She loves the reaction that people have. She loves that she can tell how she's affecting those people. So I would imagine that's, pretty powerful for you guys. Now, are you one of the singers as well, David?
Yeah, I'm the main songwriter, singer. Our bass player is the harmony singer, so we've got a trademark double harmony going on all the time. But
cool.
I've always been a songwriter. I was in a band. You know, we played like big shows and stuff in the Rhode Island, Boston, Connecticut area, and then got away from that, kind of quit it. It was kind of a punk band, kind of post-punk band. And then, but where I kind of come full circle, I realized, you know, the Americana genre is really right up my alley. I love acoustic guitars with electric guitars, with fiddle and accordion and all that. I just love the color of instruments rather than just two guitars, bass and drum, because then you start to sound like a lot of people. But if you have a lot of different instruments, and we have 6 of them, 6 members, but we all play like 1 or 2 different instruments. So we really have like 12 instruments at any given time. And it's very colorful. It's like a palette. So now I know the colors of the palette. I know the guitar player plays piano and accordion, but this guy plays mandolin and violin and ukulele. The drummer plays percussion. And so I know all that stuff. So I can actually, without them in the room, I can write a song knowing, I need mandolin here. That would be great. And so it really is like a blank white canvas. If you know the players in your band, you can create a song. But if you're in just a guitar, bass, drum, you're a little limited. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm a big Jimi Hendrix fan, The Police, some of the greatest, trios, Cream, if you go back to early days of rock. But trios are great, but it's a bit limiting. I love color. Yeah. I love listening to a song and you're just hearing all kinds of things happening and gently coming in.
Just like a rich tone.
Yeah, rich tones. So, instruments coming in the chorus and then they leave for the verse. Then they come in again and certain things come and the ebb and flow of instruments.
Yeah.
So I think
that you're bringing some clarity to me right now, because there's actually another gentleman that I had on the podcast, but they perform at one of our restaurants they're regularly there performing. But I think that's what I love so much about them is that the one gentleman plays mandolin, but he can also, I think that's what it is, but he can also plug it in and it becomes electric.
Yeah.
And then the other gentleman plays the guitar, but he also plays some weird, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a tube and you like bite on it or blow into it or something. And it makes like a wow, 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 wow kind of sound.
Oh, that's a voice box. Yeah. Peter Frampton did that. Yeah. Yeah. Voice box.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's what I like too, is that they're using all different sounds. And then they also have I think some pre-recorded sounds. It's just the 2 of them. So some things are coming in, synthetically, but I think that that's what I like too, is that there's lots of layers to that music. And so it just has a rich sound to it. Mm-hmm.
You got to be creative to do that. So awesome. What I play is I play acoustic guitar. I play Telecaster. So I got to bang that thing around a bit. So electric.
What's a Telecaster?
It's an electric guitar. It's this right here. That's pretty much a Telecaster, electric guitar. But it's
okay. I did not know.
It's the workhorse of all the guitars. You can make it sound like anything. It's really big in country rock. Bruce Springsteen plays one. Tom Petty. I mean, it's all singer-songwriter type guitar players use that. Okay. And then I play an Irish bouzouki, which is...
I was going to ask about that. What's a bouzouki?
It's an Irish instrument. It originated in Greece. And in the late 70s, an Irishman went to Greece and fell in love with their music, all the finger picking. And they loved it. It's an 8-stringed instrument, not a 6-string like a guitar.
Gosh.
And he loved it. And he built one back in Ireland. And all of a sudden, I forget his name, but he became the originator of the Irish bouzouki, which is played differently, but sounds almost the same. So I've got some Irish heritage. I'm half Irish, and I just love it. And then my mom, being all Irish, it's kind of an homage to her. And she had passed away a few years back, so she never got to hear me play it, but she would have loved the music we're doing now. But yeah, so I play Irish bouzouki. So we're Americana, but we got some Celtic influence, some folk instruments. Folk influence.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, I'm sure she's watching down, and I'm sure she's proud of you.
Oh, I know she is. Yep.
Yeah. How did you guys come up with the band name In Lieu of Flowers?
I'm fascinated with death, in a good way.
Okay.
Not a day goes by and I don't think about my own death and the death of other people. So I value. I know it sounds morbid, but death should not be a morbid thing, because it's part of life. I mean, being born isn't morbid, and yet a baby is going to fall in love and fall out of love and maybe get in a car accident someday and break a leg or lose a finger in its whole life. So why is birth morbid? No, why is birth not morbid, but death is? So it's just part of life. But the idea of In Lieu of Flowers is the only positive phrase associated with death that I know of. Everything is mourning, sorry for your loss. It's the word loss. There's mourning. Is there anything I can do to help? We'll be praying for you. It's a lot of like sad, like I'm there for you. Let me help you. But In Lieu of Flowers is typically put in an obituary instead of giving flowers to show that you cared about the person. In Lieu of Flowers says, don't send flowers. That's a waste. Do this instead. Donate to the Heart Fund or whatever. And I just always love that because it's got the word lieu in it, which is never used in any other place. It's like a word that's designated for death. It's in lieu of. And you never use lieu alone. It's always lieu of.
Right.
It probably lawyers use it too in contracts. In lieu of this, we will do this.
Sure.
But, I just love it. I love long title names. So, I mean, it could have been, Dave and the Jackals, but that's just, But In Lieu of Flowers really resonated. And everyone who heard it said, dude, I love that name. That is so cool. And it kind of evokes
and it does kind
imagery.
of sound Americana too.
Yeah, it evokes imagery of the Old West and people dying and, graves and, Boot Hill salon, people dying and whatever.
Yeah. It makes me think of like a prairie of wildflowers is what it makes me really think of. I don't know why, but for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's what it makes me think of. So just, like a free spirit or like, I don't know, skipping around, you're listening to the music, and In Lieu of Flowers, you're just listening to the music. And I don't know, for some reason, that's just what the imagery is that comes to my mind. So
we're going to have a newsletter called Friends of the Flowers, which is cool, which is all people who follow. So they're going to be called the Flowers, the Friends of the Flowers. So it's kind of like our short name, the Flowers, but it's cool. 6 guys, we're called Flowers. It's interesting, I like that. There's a little dichotomy there.
Yeah. Well, being that you love music, I would love to dig into the song that you chose and why you chose it. I'm always interested to see, what somebody brings up and how they connect to that song. So take it away, Dave. Tell us what you picked and then go right into why you picked it.
All right. Well, I picked the song Without You. It's called Without You by Badfinger. Peter Ham wrote it. Actually, Peter Ham and Tom Evans, they were the guitar player, bass player for Badfinger. And talking about death, tragically, they both committed suicide, oddly enough, like a year apart. It was really weird. Look them up. But outside of that, they were brilliant songwriters. I think they were very depressed that they never made it big, but they were friends with George Harrison of the Beatles and Paul McCartney. I mean, all these big acts loved them back in the 70s, like early 70s, 72, 73. And this song came out, although they didn't make it famous, Their version is just okay, but the version I love is not by them. Oh, it's by Harry Nilsson. So Harry Nilsson sung it, and it was on the radio when I was a kid. And emotionally, musically, it took me to another place. The chorus is in a major key, and then it just like builds up to this minor key. I'm sorry, the verses are in a major key, and it builds up to this chorus in a minor key, and it is so sad. And everyone can relate to it. Even if you were in Japan and you didn't understand English, I think you'd be in tears just listening to the music. And I think Celine Dion did it, and other people have done it over the years. Mariah Carey, I think maybe, but it's just Harry Nilsson's recording of it with that thick, rich reverb on his vocals. I mean, it just sends the melody soaring, and I have always loved that, and that really also inspired me to be a songwriter. But it's about loss, without you, I can't live without you, and all that. I can't live, I can't give anymore. I can't live if living is without you. I can't give anymore. It's sung from a perspective of this attachment to this person or thing, that if I don't have that or that person, I can't do anything. I can't give, and it's just that feeling of loss is just so powerful.
Yeah. So. Well, I haven't lost anybody, like a parent in my life or even a really close friend. And so I'm sure that day, is slowly approaching, but sometimes, probably too often, I think about the event of losing my husband, and that is really how I would feel. Like, I don't know how somebody goes on after they lose their spouse. I mean, I could see myself with a glass of wine or maybe a bottle and listening to this song just on repeat, and it's just a heart-wrenching, soul-grabbing song. I mean, it's such a great pick. And, I don't know. It's such a great song that you chose. I love it. So you heard this song when you were just a kid?
Yeah, and one of the lines is, "You always smile, but in your eyes, your sorrow shows." So it's like, the facial expression, you're smiling, but there's deep sadness that the writer is seeing.
And he sings that so tenderly.
Yes, it's tender. And then, so he goes, "You always smile, but in your eyes, your sorrow shows." Yes, it shows. And then it's just like, boom, boom. Then the chorus, "I can't live." And it just takes off like an eagle into the desert with this reverb. And it's just, oh my gosh, it grabs you. But I was a kid.
No, you're right.
I remember crying as a kid on the radio. I was a little embarrassed. Like, is this normal? But yeah, songs grip you that way. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So is this a song that you did listen to through a few breakups by any chance, since you did hear it when you were a kid?
Well, yeah, there was a girl I liked, and I was too shy to reach out to her to get to know her. And I felt like it kind of slipped away. Like I never got to know her and what would have been. So I think that's what gripped me once. And it was the whole puppy love, when you're 13 years old, 12 years old, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, but I'll tell you, it's a therapeutic song because it helps you grieve. It's a grieving song.
For sure.
So I lost half my family within 3 years. My mother died, my father, and my brother Bill, who had Down syndrome. We came to move in with them. We lived in the basement, kind of built it out so we could all live there, all four of us, my wife and two kids. And we took care of them upstairs, and they had dementia, real bad, diabetes. They were falling down, calling the ambulance. We had the ambulance, no word of a lie, like probably once every 2 weeks show up and take my mom to the hospital. She'd be there for a day. They'd stabilize her for diabetes, and then she'd have to go to a nursing home for a week, and then she'd come back. So it was like a trio from the home to the hospital to the nursing home back home. And it was like wearing on us. And, then my sister, out of the blue, who's my only other Rhode Island sibling, dies tragically at 62 years old, and she was helping us. And so she died, and then my mother dies, and then my brother Bill dies, and then the next day my 4-year-old puppy dies right in front of us. And then my dad died. So my whole Rhode Island family died within 3 years. I just have two brothers who live in Florida, but it was tragic. And whenever I hear that song, it helps me get the tears out and
For
relate.
sure.
I don't agree with the line that I can't live without those people, because I am living, but it's
Right.
good to connect with the emotion of it.
Yeah. Or just that feeling like you can do it, but you just don't want to. Not like you're gonna do anything
Yeah.
about it, but you have to, but you don't want to. And so it kind of just helps you feel that. And it's like I tell my girlfriends, like you can have a pity party, that's totally fine. You just can't stay there. So
Right.
this song, it sounds like, helps you to get in there, feel it, get the emotion out, and then get back on track and, focus on whatever you're doing for the day.
Yeah, loss is a powerful thing, but you have to grieve. I mean, there's all those, the experts say there's 5 stages of grief, and you should never stay in one too long. You got to get through all of them.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever got mad with any of them. I never hit the mad stage with anyone I lost, but definitely the sadness, the bitterness, I forget what all 5 of them were, but anyway, that's my go-to song. A little depressing, but I think everyone can relate to that if you heard it. But you got to hear Harry Nilsson's version.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I had a gentleman on the podcast, and he said, the emotions are always there. The music sometimes just helps to bring those emotions out. So I think that's kind of, what you experience a little bit when you need to turn it on. You're like, hey, I need to process this a little bit or work on this a little bit. So you throw the song on, sing it. I hope you sing your heart out. I sing my heart out to things like this. And you're right, that I can just, I'm just overwhelmed by like this feeling of this person in a car having a moment. They put that song on, and like everybody thinks that they sing so good in the car, or anyways, I do it. So I imagine others do too. But you're just hitting that note, and you're probably off. You don't know, but you're just singing with all your heart and all your emotion. And it's like, when the song's done, like it just took it all out of you, and like cleansing almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And like even as a songwriter, it's cleansing to be genuine and write lyrics that are truthful, that really happened. So I don't know the story behind that song. Like, did Pete Ham break up with someone? I don't really know, but I mean, he connected with loss. But I mean, tragically, he did take his life. So he was really a melancholy kind of guy. But you just gotta be healthy with that. So
yeah.
Hey, Podcast Land. Wouldn't it be great if you could save time by being able to reply to text, email, and social media messaging all from one place instead of switching between apps? Or better yet, the system replies for you? I didn't know it existed until I started using Follow-Up Speed. I'm going to tell you a little bit more, but first, pen and paper. Go grab them. It's okay. I'll wait. Okay, now, text details to 904-560-5597. Don't worry, it'll be in the show notes. But don't you wish remembering to follow up was just a little bit easier? With Follow-Up Speed, you can set an automation and forget about it. The system does the rest of the work. Before you know it, leads will be in your inbox from the system doing your following up for you. You can also earmark contacts as they enter the system with tags, making it easier to find them later, like watched webinar, or attended Zoom call, or met at chamber. Follow-Up Speed can do all of that. I know it's hard to wrap your brain around, but it's this detailed system that acts like a CRM, project management, and your all-around hub for all communication, including but not limited to following up. Just text details to 904-560-5597 and see it in action for yourself. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Be healthy with it, which I think is such a miss these days with kids. I wish that we would address that more. Like, you're going to feel miserable some days. You're going to feel like it's the end of the world, but the next day comes and it's okay again. Mm-hmm. And, music will help people to process that. So I know I've shared many times on the podcast that I, we'll be in a moment and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I'm like, you know what? I'm putting some music on and I'm going to work through this and I am going to get in a good mood.
Yeah, it's amazing what it does. I mean, there's I had a massage therapy session a few weeks ago because I'd hurt my back, prior to doing that gig. And she was telling me about some of her services. And while she's massaging my back, she's like, the other woman that works here, she has a service called sound therapy. I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Where you just sit down and she's playing sounds that if you relax enough, it's at a certain hertz that humans can hear. And then some of it's below 20 hertz where we can't hear, but it does affect your whole mood. And that's kind of interesting. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, I'm intrigued with that. I should look and see if there's something like that in my area. I would also like to try a sound bath, maybe.
Oh, you try a what?
A sound bath. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's the same idea where you're kind of meditating and relaxing and they're playing at frequencies that are supposed to be, I don't know, cleansing, uplifting. Somehow they help a person out.
It's all frequencies, right? Whether it's an emotional frequency, you meet someone and you feel like, I'm not getting a good vibe with this person. I can never see myself getting along with this person. It's just their frequency is much higher or lower or whatever. And, it's just like music. Music's at a frequency. So. Yeah.
Well, they say, everything is energy. So that would make sense. I mean, we as humans are energy and the music is energy and those frequencies are energy. So, I mean, that would make sense and connect.
Right. There you go. Yeah. I believe in that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Dave, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything else that you want to add about this song? Is this a song that you use, today when you go through something? Is it on a playlist?
Yeah,
or,
no, it's just...
when do you go to this song?
It's just something that, I go to for therapy, There's a few other songs, but that's the one. That's my go-to if I'm really, really feeling like going through a loss, if someone had passed away, and I make it sound like I lose people every week. I don't want to get that impression. And hopefully, I'm in a time of plateauing where I'm not going to lose people, but
sounds like you've done your fair share for a minute.
Yeah. And it's grief is welcoming because you need to go through it because it's healthy for you.
For sure.
And it helps you to become more of an empath, empathetic to people and their pain. If you connect with that, if you can cry for a song and you really work on that. And I wonder if there's a thing called crying therapy where you just cry and you weep and you get connected emotionally. Not to be an emotional basket case. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But just to really get connected to that frequency of crying and feeling for someone. That just makes you a better person. Because when someone says, oh, I just lost my job, that'll make you stop what you do and say, I'm coming over. I'm bringing some Dunkin' Donuts and I'm going to hang with you for a little bit. Like I did that with my friend whose mom was 99 years old. And I'm sorry, no, she hit 100 and she passed away. She's in my church and she's a wonderful woman. I call her Ma. She's a black woman and I'm a white guy, but she's still my mother. And when she died, I mean, everyone was just hurt. Well, I went to her daughter. I just went over. I says, I'm going to need to help you out. So I went over there and I just brought some donuts and just sat with her. But I would have never done that if I wasn't that kind of guy. Yeah. And I don't think it's a woman's sole role to be that emotional support. I think emotional support should be for every human being. Women are better at it, but guys need to improve.
Well, I think that you've went through enough loss that you can be empathetic to what she's feeling. So that role becomes very natural for you to say, let me comfort you. This is what helped me. Let me see if this helps you, in that fashion. So that makes total sense. And we all have those songs that help us kind of process. So, well, I really appreciate you sharing this.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? You never know what rabbit holes we'll get to go down and explore. Were you reminded of anything or anyone? Share what it was with me in a review.
Yeah, and if I could just
honestly, the reviews don't do me any favors other than knowing people like you are listening to this podcast. Insert cheesy wink.
Google In Lieu of Flowers.
However, the ratings do help, so leave me 5 stars. You know you wanna. This podcast was produced by Virtual You. supporting
which
you
is
in
an
all
old
things
dilapidated
podcasting.
pump house out
To
near
connect or check
Kingston,
me out on
Rhode
social
Island.
media,
And
I
it's
mean,
now
I know
a,
you're just going to stalk
music
me.
venue. It's really,
But see the
really
show
great.
notes, as
So we're
always,
really
for
looking
details.
forward to that.
Can't wait to dive into my next
Awesome.
guest's memories
Well, you
with a
guys
beat.
know I will have
Hit
all
subscribe
of the
now.
information
You don't want to
in the
miss
show notes.
the next episode.
I will have Dave's band name. I'll have all the information for the record release. And then, of course, you guys, you know, this song is going to be on the Apple, Spotify, and YouTube playlist. So if you're thinking like, what is that song again? Go to the playlist. It's going to be there. You'll hear it, and you will be instantly reminded of what Dave and I have been talking about.
Bring your
Dave,
tissues.
Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, bring your tissues. Thank you so much for your time today, Dave.
No problem. Thanks, Tiffany.
And Podcast Land, I hope that you have enjoyed Dave's memories and thoughts about this beat.